Mal gucken. Mal gucken, wie es weitergeht. Letztes Mal hat, hat Keiji ja in seinem inneren Monolog für sich entschlossen, dass es ja eigentlich ganz einfach ist, Satoko zu retten. Und zwar nicht, indem er Satoko an sich rettet oder halt von ihrem bösen Onkel äh, versteckt oder sowas, sondern dass er die andere Variable in dem ganzen Zeug eliminiert. Und zwar den Onkel an sich tötet. Und das hat er sich für jetzt vorgenommen. Ich guck mal ganz schnell, was für Tipps überhaupt zu haben. Trap Course, Slacking Manager, Upsy, East Round. Okay. Research Notes, Wishes Post Memo, Case Article, Statistics, Farewell, Emergency. Okay. Hallo Test. Hallo Test. Test. Ich habe es vorhin gerade eben schon gezeigt, aber da du jetzt auch da bist, das Spiel, weil ich habe ja gestern gemeint, 3 Spiele stehen dann zur Auswahl, was dann als nächstes gespielt werden soll. Entweder Dead Rising 1 oder Hitman Absolution oder das Spiel, das ich hier in der Hand habe. Nämlich Red Dead Redemption. Zwei von den 3 Spielen werden dann nächste Woche angefangen. Weil Red Dead Redemption, weiß nicht, ist mir irgendwie so in den Kopf gekommen, weil das ja sowieso schon vor einer Zeit mal ein bisschen gewünscht wurde und so weiter. Da habe ich mal auf Amazon geguckt. Game of the Year Edition ist es sogar, also mit Undead Nightmare DLC und so. Ja. Hat, ich weiß nicht, 20 Euro oder so gekostet, also es war auf jeden Fall nicht teuer. Und ja. So, gut. Also, machen wir bei Higurashi weiter. Schauen wir mal. Schauen wir mal, was Keiji denn jetzt so macht, nachdem er für sich beschlossen hat, den bösen Onkel von Satoko zu töten. Me and the others having to set up for the Watanagashi festival or something invited me along, but I refused. Ach, Test, wie sieht's eigentlich aus mit PC? Weiß nicht, ob ich es richtig in Erinnerung habe, aber ich glaube, du hast gemeint, gestern hast du, glaube ich, gemeint, du würdest dann heute mal in den Laden gehen. Außer ich habe das irgendwie falsch in Erinnerung. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Björn had a lot of nerve. Das ist kein gefunden. Okay. Macht ja nix. Irgendwann. Irgendwann bestimmt. The first thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat, it was because I wanted to be even calmer. Eher schmächtig. Ja, das glaube ich, ja. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force have the highest arrest rate in the world. I would need to decipher successfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. They do a lot to determine whether they really were false accusations, but figuring out who the real criminal was is usually out of the question. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation. But Internet, was heißt das Wort? Inundation. Besonders, wie spricht man es aus? Überschwemmung, Überflutung. Okay.
Inundation.
Inundation. Dankeschön. I just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult-to-solve incidents, involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff, but they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes. Perfect crimes were skills of the gods. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I understood they must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods, those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime before Oyashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I need to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Da fehlt ein E bei sometimes. Sometimes, kidnappings involving disturbing original methods that made it into the newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night, for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her. Gage geht jetzt natürlich zu seiner Mutter und fragt, wie man einen perfekte böse Tat machen kann. Perfektes Verbrechen. What do I think the most well-done perfect crime in all the mystery novels I've read is? Yeah. Well, you read quite a lot of them, right? I figured you might know a lot about them. It's more fun to read them to find out. If I told you all the tricks right off the bat, they'd be no fun anymore. It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer. Of course, Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None is my top recommendation. And Murder on the Orient Express used some great, bold tricks too, of course. I didn't see it coming at all. I didn't want to know which novels you liked. I wanted to know about the trick that made you the most surprised. If it was really a perfect trick, the detectives wouldn't be able to solve the case, though. That was true. Then there'd be no point. Mystery novels are enjoyable because of the process of the mysteries getting solved. If it was unsolvable, it wouldn't make a very good topic for a novel. Get it? Yeah, you're right. If the main character can't solve it, it wouldn't be much of a story, huh? Was I being too simplistic? Mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you can get to the goal, so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be the be-all and all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives. Schmeißt das Opfer in den Fernseher. Geht, glaube ich, in dem Universum schlecht. Gott, meisten gestorbenen Charaktere. Ui. Muss ich mir mal anschauen. Mich mal informieren. Ja. An sich sagt mir es nix. Agatha Christie sagt mir zwar auf jeden Fall was, aber die ganzen Sachen, die sie geschrieben hat, absolut keine Ahnung. By the way, KG, do you understand that truly perfect crimes don't even become stories? Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into it. Don't even become stories? What does that mean? KG, what are the essential parts of a story? A beginning, a middle, and an end. Correct. The beginning, of course, is especially important. If there's no beginning, then the story never starts. Well, yeah. If nothing happened, nothing would begin. Right. Nothing happened, so there wouldn't even be an incident. Detectives wouldn't be called, so there wouldn't be any mystery. There would be no mystery, so there would be no solution. In other words, it would be the ultimate perfect crime. Wait a second. Could you explain that again? My mom just told me something absurd, and she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just now. It's not really that difficult to understand. The incident just has to never come to light, that's all. Just has to never come to light? For example, how about this? Say there's an old man living deep in the forest nobody goes into. And one day the old man gets killed by an axe. And let's say the criminal was the old man's son. He went to the old man's house and they were drinking together, but they got into a fight and he killed him. An extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime. But Keiichi, the house was really, really deep in the forest. So deep in the mountains that nobody would ever go out that far. And his son would go back to town and say that the old man was doing fine. But about that is a perfect crime. Keiichi. This incident would only begin when it was found out that the old man was killed. If nobody ever visited the old man's house after that, that beginning would never occur. The beginning would never occur. So basically, the story wouldn't start. The incident wouldn't come to light, and they wouldn't call in detectives. And nobody would be suspicious in the first place, so there'd be no mystery. They'd think the old man was still living by himself deep in the forest. And the old man's face would appear in the sky, and that would be it. Something like that, you know? That's amazing. That's a pretty great trick. But it wouldn't be a novel. Mystery novels are for entertainment after all. They can't be instruction manuals for perfect crimes. Wouldn't be a novel. Ach komm, da kannst du bestimmt eine anständige Geschichte drumrum schreiben. Ich meine, muss halt noch ein bisschen mehr dazu tun. Nur, ja, der Typ geht seinen Vater besuchen, bringt ihn um und geht dann wieder weg und wird niemals gefasst. Ist ein bisschen langweilig, aber kannst du bestimmt ganz gut machen. Irgendwas Gutes drumrum schreiben und bla und vielleicht hat der Sohn dann Gewissensbisse und halluziniert sein Vater und bla bla bla, keine Ahnung. Irgendwelche dummen Ideen halt. Kannst du schon irgendwas machen. Und dann stirbt der Sohn, weil er, keine Ahnung, vor dem Geist von seinem Vater flüchtet und dann Ende. 2 Leute tot, keiner weiß warum. I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of Oyashiro-sama. When the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. But, Moment, habe ich das richtig gelesen? Thinking inside my house. Achso, der meint es buchstäblich. Der geht jetzt raus und denkt weiter drüber nach. Okay. Hab gedacht, das wäre irgendwie so ein komisches Sprichwort oder so. I left getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cold air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. Tatsächlich. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi, so as long as I was standing in for Oyashiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Sotoko. Just hang on, for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that, but please, just hold on. Yonini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. But was war das? Achso, Musik. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I'd definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. Was ist denn das für merkwürdige Musik? My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable. Klingt bekannt. Okay. But this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law, It prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. 10? Ich hab gedacht, ich hab mal gehört, es ist 12 Zentimeter. Oder 4 Inch. 4 Zoll. Keine Ahnung. Keine Ahnung. Naja, Japan und Deutschland sind zwei unterschiedliche Staaten. So the blades available to me, though long enough, were limited to things shorter than a ruler. Aber Irena darf ihre Dingens da mit rumschleppen, ihr komisches Riesenbeil. Ohne dass irgendwer irgendwas sagt. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. Ah ja, und Mion hat auch ständig eine echte Pistole in ihrem Pistolengürtel umhängen. Sagt ach keiner was. Renat kümmert sich nicht ums Gesetz. Der ist es hauptsächlich wichtig, dass er süße Sachen aus der Müllhalde ausgraben kann. In that case, using a weapon with reach would be far more effective. Und ja, mit Mion legt sich ja sowieso keiner an. Die gehört ja zu den Sonosakis, zu der mächtigsten Familie in Hinamizawa. Ja. It might not have the same precision, but you just had to hit the guy until you killed him. Both options resulted in death. With that settled, what is the weapon with the most terrifying force behind it and that is also easy to carry around? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. Wie als wenn er eine Präsentation halten wird. Keiichi. Darauf komme ich später zurück. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. Yeah. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. Wie ein Ninja. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. But if I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desks, in their surprise, fly at me, crush my bones and eat me alive? But that's ridiculous. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day. Here it is, Hojo. This has to be it. If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have two? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. Was im Endeffekt normal ist, wenn man Geschwister ist und noch so jung und so. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. Hat nicht zugehört. Herumfliegen und lebendig gegessen werden. Ja, Keiichi hat sich gerade gefragt, ob die Tische in einem leeren Klassenzimmer auf dem Boden rumkrabbeln und den Staub auflecken. Und wenn er dann in den leeren Klassenraum gehen würde und die Tische dann erschrecken würde oder halt dabei unterbrechen wird mit dem Ganzen, ob die dann auf ihn drauf fliegen würden, seine Knochen brechen und ihn bei lebendigem Leib essen würden. Die Tische. Daraus können wir schließen, dass Satoko das einzige Kind mit Geschwister ist. Naja, zumindest das einzige Kind mit Geschwistern, die in der gleichen Schule sind. Weil wir wissen ja, Mion hat ja eine Zwillingsschwester. Aber die Shion ist ja nicht in der Schule drin, sondern die ist ja woanders, in einer anderen Schule. Und ja. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. Inside it was average and worthless. At the time I hadn't been interested, so until now I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered. The thing that had been there. Baseballschläge. Scrape. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out, like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes, Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform, and it. The one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes. This was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role, it was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There's no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now, I just needed to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years, you can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dulled thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave, I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay, next, how to dispose of the corpse. Und wie er das plant oder machen möchte dann, erfahren wir beim nächsten Mal. Disposing of the corpse. Yay, Spieluhrmusik.